Society has always been in a bare-knuckle fight with Mother Nature, going toe-to-toe with some of her more interesting jabs and punches. Testing ourselves and oftentimes losing to hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, and meteor strikes. We've become accustomed to these attacks. But every so often, nature has a trick up her sleeve, an ace that comes out of nowhere and really floors us. 1-2 strikes that, although natural, have no rational cause. Today, we are going to list 10 strange, unexplained phenomena that stomp science. Guatemala sinkhole. Sinkholes are a natural occurrence of our geological mantle. They can be man-made or, in most cases, brought on by the plain and organic process known as karst, a chemical dissolution of carbonate rocks. In general, they may vary in sizes from 3 feet up to 1,800 feet in diameter and depth. They are found throughout the world as a blight on Florida's real estate due to the state's honeycombed swampland, or as tourist attractions in Mexico's Mayan Riviera called cenotes. Over the last years, these chasms have been swelling in numbers. In 2017, Florida saw a spike of over 32 sinkholes, a stark contrast to the 11 reported in 2016. But as a rule, these shallow holes are rather ubiquitous in the grand scheme of things. Well, all but one, the Guatemala City sinkhole. In 2010, Guatemala's city Zona 2 was devastated with a cataclysmic disaster that ended up claiming, according to La Hora newspaper, over 15 lives. Not to mention an extra 300 more that had to be relocated. The sinkhole of over 65 feet across and 300 feet deep ended up swallowing whole a 3-story factory. To this day, the exact cause of that particular sinkhole is an enigma. Theories are a dime a dozen, from the torrential rains of Tropical Storm Agatha to sewer pipe leakage and even an inner crust volcanic eruption. Fairy circles, Namibia. In the arid grasslands of the Namib Desert in coastal southern Africa lies a land of over 2,000 kilometers fraught with mystic and scientific irregularities. Like the Welwitschia plant, a living fossil found only in that landscape. One of this region's biggest and eeriest mysteries are the fabled fairy circles. Over 1 million perfect round circular patches, between 2 meters to 15 meters in diameter, arranged in a geometric pattern across 2,500 kilometers of land. These disks of bare soil pockmark the region in an intricate array that almost seems man-made due to its precision. Adding to the mystery, says geologist Prem Raft, is the fact that no one knows for certain the cause of these otherworldly formations. Nonetheless, there really are no shortage of theories, some plausible and others far-fetched. Hypotheses like radioactive soil, sand termites, plant toxins, or, as local bushmen are prone to believe, they are the footprints of the gods. The door to hell, Derwiz, Turkmenistan. First identified by Soviet engineers in 1971, the door to hell is a collapsed underground gas crater dead set in the middle of the Karakum Desert, about 160 miles north of Ashgabat, the capital of Turkmenistan. Little is known about the gates of hell, and what scraps remain in the official records are a bit sketchy. In 1971, a cavern flourished out of nowhere, right where the doors now stand. According to geologist Anatoly Bushmakin, it was originally thought to be a substantial oil field. The oil rig collapsed into the crater and a cloud of toxic methane gas started to spread over the countryside. The engineers had no other choice but to intentionally set it to fire to prevent a full-blown environmental disaster. Since that day, the 226-foot wide, 98-foot deep pothole has been scorching the landscape. Frozen methane bubbles, Canada. They have been described by the press as ice-encapsulated jellyfishes, frozen over flying saucers, and even ancient deep-frozen pizza. Yet in the essence, words seem to fail the otherworldly attraction of Canada's frozen methane bubbles. Methane bubbles are generally found in the higher northern latitude lakes in Alberta, Canada. The stunning and potentially fatal sights, greenhouse gas not only warms the planet but is incredibly flammable, is still an unsolved mystery to science. The gas bubbles either formed by a natural gas cavern under the region or bacteria that eats biological material and excrete methane, or, as UFO nuts like to propagate, by space aliens, or as ancient settlers believed, by impish spirits and goblins. What cannot be denied is the spectacular sight these enigmatic orbs decorate the mundanity with. Pink Lake, Hillier, Australia. In Western Australia, there was a unique visual treat that is nothing short of God giving Instagrammers the holy photo opportunity. Nestled in lush emerald foliage and surrounded by the dense and deep sapphire blue of the ocean, Australia hides a phenomenon that will shock even the most jaded onlooker: a series of bubblegum pink lakes. One of the most known, Lake Hillier, lies on the edge of the middle island in the Recherche archipelago, encompassed by a thin ring of sand that adds beauty to its mystique. What is more surprising than its Pepto-Bismol shade, geologist James Garrick says, is that nobody seems to be able to definitively explain its distinctive color. Supposition abounds as to their nature. Green algae with high levels of beta-carotene, a microorganism known as Haloachia, a high concentration of pink brine prawn. But the chromatic splendor still manages to elude any real explanation. Tao's hum. Everyone has felt the occasional ringing in their ears, a buzzing, chirping, or humming that nags at the ear canal like a nasty little worm. The reasons for that slight shriek are manifold. Something as innocuous as a mechanical pitch, a timbre or two above the normal auditory spectrum, or the onset of tinnitus. In general, this ringing can be easily explained by medical science. All but one. In the town of Taos, north-central New Mexico, a region baked by its liberal artist community, there is an auditory disturbance that defies logic and rational thinking. A hum that can be heard by over 2% of the settled population. A hum that 3 to 4 tourists visiting the area constantly experience during their trip. A hum that is collectively heard. The Taos hum was first reported in early 1990s, and since then it has been investigated by local researchers, visiting medical physicians, and even the University of New Mexico. It is arguably one of the region's most endearing stories. But, and here's where the tale deepens and grows legs, this is not an isolated event. The hum, which is in a state of continual manifestation in Taos, has been experienced throughout the world at different times. In Auckland, New Zealand, in Bristol, UK, in the Zog Islands near Detroit, and in dozens of other latitudes. There is no real explanation for its cause. There is no definitive answer for what sets it off. For that matter, there really isn't a scientific response as to what it is. All we really know for certain is that the disturbance occurs and that it is not make-believe. Tabby's star. Let's grab a spacecraft for this entry, leave our atmosphere, and zoom out of the Milky Way in order to grasp one of the most baffling astronomical mysteries out there. Kick 8462852, nicknamed Tabby's star after its discoverer Tabitha Boyajian, is one of the 150,000 stars that have been documented by the Kepler Space Telescope. So, why all the fuzz? Tabby's star is unique because of its light fluctuation. Most stars usually have a small light dip that indicates that a planet is passing in front of them, explains Jason Wright, an astronomer at Penn State University. Tabby's strange because it has a dramatic and erratic inconstancy, up to 20% at a time. Massive compared to other celestial bodies. Causes and explanations for this odd lumen activity are wide and all over the place. From the logical, large clusters of planets passing at a time, to the questionable, an alien civilization using massive machines orbiting the star to procure energy. The Great Attractor. We all know the generally accepted model of how the universe came to be, the Big Bang Theory. Quick recap: a supergiant explosion some 14 billion years ago sent all matter hurtling outward, leading to an expanding universe. Most scientists view this theory as the baseline and norm for the origin of the cosmos. Yet, here is where things get a bit iffy. The theory doesn't take into account the anomaly known as the Great Attractor. In 1970, astrophysics began observing and investigating a force about 150 to 250 million light-years away from planet Earth. A force that is actually pulling the Milky Way and multiple other galaxies towards it. That cosmic pull essentially disproves the humdrum and prevailing theory that reality exploded and swelled from a distinctive point. We didn't explode. We were dragged. Although in 2016, a group of international scientists was able to finally take a gander at this area using the CIRRUS-Parkes radio telescope, they couldn't really come up with an explanation for what is pulling galaxies towards that spot. They did nonetheless discover over 883 galaxies clustered in the area, hauled in by this magnetic dragnet. Bloody skies. On April 2016, the residents of Chalchupa, El Salvador were shocked to discover that they were staring down the barrel of that shotgun known as the Apocalypse. In a moment plucked straight out of the Book of Revelation, a deep crimson light blanketed the atmosphere for over 2 minutes, plunging the town into a blood-soaked twilight. To this day, there hasn't really been a scientific explanation for this phenomenon. The international community was stumped as to the cause. The blood-red sky phenomenon hasn't been witnessed before or after that fateful day. There has been talk of a meteor shower or a meteor crash, but there is no reliable evidence to back that assumption. The prevailing theory, backed by the Christian evangelical community, is that the red flash is nothing short than a tangible sign of the oncoming biblical end of days. Maelstroms. The last entry before we climb out of this kaleidoscopic rabbit hole and waddle back to our by-the-numbers existence. Maelstroms, although not named as such, were first described in Homer's epic, The Odyssey. Odysseus, on his journey to Ithaca, had to face the dreaded sea monster known as Charybdis. The creature, lying underneath the ocean, opened its rounded jaws and swallowed ships whole. Years later, right where Homer placed this mythical being, on the Straits of Messina, a whirlpool and international shipping hazard was discovered, proving that the wise Greek knew his stuff. Maelstroms, from the Dutch malen to whirl, and strom, stream, are immensely powerful deep-sea whirlpools that form when opposing currents meet. What ultimately gives these sucking beasts their charm, Naval Captain Anthony Seat explains, is the fact that they can spring into existence out of nowhere. We have some charted on maps, but others simply blindside you and can actually form a moment's notice under your vessel. These ancient watery death traps are one of the most prevalent and nasty surprises Poseidon's kingdom has brewed for those intrepid explorers willing to try to conquer its vast surface. Well, let's dust ourselves off and think happy thoughts. Maybe someday we will get clear and definitive answers to most of these natural riddles. But until then, we can swathe ourselves in their glowing mysteries and almost supernatural glow, content in the knowledge that there is still some magic in this overly practical and pragmatic world. We hope you enjoyed the video. Have you found something that science can't explain? Let us know in the comments. And if you liked the video, then share it with a friend. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know when a new video comes out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.